Hey there, YouTubers. Luis from On-Site Auto and Truck Repair in Middletown, New York. So every once in a while, I come across a car that just causes me to pull my hair out of my head. And the year just started, and I've already got one. So the car in question is a 2010 Ford Fusion Hybrid. Not a lot of hybrids, Ford Fusion hybrids on the road. This is probably one of the few that I've actually had here over the last few years, and this one proved to be a pain in my butt. The car is a good customer of mine, the car is a customer of mine, really good customer, excuse me. And his complaint was he went to the dog park, let his dog out, went to get back in the car, and the vehicle wouldn't start. So I guess he got a ride, came back, and the thing started. I said, all right. So drove it home. He might have drove it for a couple weeks. Lo and behold, it wouldn't start in his driveway again. He went as far as trying to jump start it, put a new battery in it, and it wouldn't start. He purchased a computer for it and then realized that, this is putting this computer in is a little too much for me. So called us up, sent the tow truck out, towed it back to our facility. So first thing I did was, I checked to make sure that the battery was good, put a brand new battery, had 12 volts out on it. That was all good, connections were tight. I said, all right, let's put this computer in for him. He ended up ordering the computer from a reputable source. It has all the current updates that Ford requires, so it was a good purchase. But, I was kind of, wasn't too optimistic on it helping the situation. So, by the way, putting a computer in a Ford Fusion Hybrid is a nightmare. You better have the world's smallest hands like me and also be a contortionist, because if you can't get your hands in there, you will be pulling spindles and axles and control arms just to be able to have enough working room to get to this computer. So we put the computer in it, and sure enough, it didn't start. So I sat down and I started scratching my head. And I remember a few years ago I had a Ford Focus here that came in for the same issue. It was a no start issue. Previous shop had replaced a starter in it. It started up, but a couple days later, same deal. So I recalled that Ford had an issue with grounds. And on that particular Ford Focus with the starter, it ended up being the grounds over on the passenger firewall and the strut tower. There's a few grounds there that were just corroding from the inside out, and it's the reason why the vehicle wasn't starting. Sure enough, I replaced it and the thing started. So I said, you know what, I wonder if that's the case. So I walk over to the passenger side of this Ford Fusion Hybrid, and I noticed that one of the, the little braided ground straps was broken. Not a significant ground, but I said, you know what, I think this Ford Fusion has the same problems as that Ford Focus I encountered years ago. So I ended up cleaning the grounds up, and sure enough, she started right up. So the next part of this video, I'm going to show you exactly the work that I did. I'm actually going to show you the space that I had to work with to get to this computer. And I'm going to show you the grounds that I cleaned to be able to get the vehicle to start again. And the purpose of this video is, there's not a lot of information out there on the hybrids. You can check forums, you can Google, you're not going to find anything. So that's why I said, you know what, let me do a video like this just in case somebody's having this kind of issues. And this is a very simple fix. This is a do-it-yourself fix. You don't common tools. Wire brush and a 10mm socket's what I use to clean these grounds. And beats having to take it to the dealer and facing a couple $1,000s in diagnostics and labor, only for it to be something as simple as grounds. And FYI, a lot of these cars nowadays are very, very finicky when it comes to voltage and grounding. I know a lot of Chryslers, if they've got a weak battery, can wreak havoc on the vehicle. And, so that's one thing that you always want to stay on top of, is make sure that your battery and your connections don't have any corrosions, any of that acid buildup, because it will create issues in the future. So we're going to go out to the shop, and I'm going to show you exactly what I did and how I went about troubleshooting the issues that we had, and so on and so forth. Alright, YouTubers, so this is the Ford Fusion that we've had here for some time, trying to figure out what's wrong with it. One of the first things I did too was I noticed that the anti-theft system light kept blinking, so I grabbed the key fob, I had locked it, I unlocked it, it still wouldn't start. I went and I manually locked it and unlocked it, and we were still having issues. So the lights that were coming on when we were having issues was, you put the key in the ignition, you go to crank it, and absolutely nothing, completely dead. And these cars are quiet when the electric motor comes on. A lot of times you don't hear them, but that wasn't even the case. But we ended up getting all those lights there, traction control, low tire pressure, low oil pressure, and the theft system light kept blinking. And I kept saying to myself, why does the theft system light keep blinking? I go, it's got to be an electrical issue. So let's go under the hood. So I had mentioned too that the customer has supplied a new computer, which we happily replaced. That's what the customer wanted. And just before we get into the whole electrical issue, I want to show you exactly where this computer is. So he couldn't find where the computer was and gave up and brought it to us. And sure enough, it was buried underneath the window cowl here. We had to remove the windshield wiper motor, linkages, and everything just to be able to expose the computer. And up here, there was 3 bolts. As you can see, we haven't bolted it down yet. We've only got 1 bolt holding it down. We're in the process of putting it back together. But it's actually 4 bolts total. And the other bolt is all the way on the bottom, and you cannot access it from up here. And it's very, very tight to get from the bottom. And like I said, I've got really small hands and these really skinny arms for mountain bike racing that, you know, I was able to get it done, and it was not easy. It was actually painful. You know, my fingers are killing me now from, you know, threading the bolt out and threading it back in, and I'm glad that that part is over. But the computer did not fix it. So, you know, like I said in the first part of the video, I remember encountering a Ford Focus that had grounding issues. So I walked over here, and sure enough, you know, I looked at this little ground strap, and this isn't really of much importance, this ground strap here, but you can see that, you know, it broke off. So I said, you know what, let's start looking at grounds. You know, made sure everything was tight here. I took it off, I cleaned it, and then I started looking for the grounds on the strut tower, on the chassis. And then I noticed one there. So we pulled that one out, we cleaned it, and we pulled that one out and we cleaned it. And over here by the computer, there was another one. I don't know if you can see that right there. We pulled it out and we cleaned it as well. And of course, you know, I did this with the battery disconnected and went in, and sure enough, lo and behold, the car started. So the reason being why these grounds, you know, and one thing I'm going to say is that the grounds did not actually look bad. They looked fairly clean. And, you know, to someone who doesn't know any better, they wouldn't bother to look there. The issue is when these cars were manufactured, Ford painted the chassis. But they never, you know, they never scuffed up the metal. They never, you know, exposed the metal and made it a good enough contact. So, you know, over years, you get a little bit of dirt under there and stuff, and you end up losing the contact. So if you're having issues with these cars, pull them off, hit the chassis with a wire wheel, hit the eyelet of the connector with a wire wheel, put some dielectric grease, and that's pretty much it. Now, you know, I was pulling my hair out on this one, and I really didn't have to, and it was such a simple fix. And I said, you know what, this is going to be a good video because there isn't a lot of information on these hybrid motors. And FYI, if you're working on these motors, do not mess with the orange stuff because this packs quite a punch. It will kill you if you cut into there or you remove something without much knowledge. So I would leave the hybrid stuff to a professional, or if you're feeling brave, make sure you do a lot of research on it. People do get killed with these batteries. So anyways, everything started, and actually we'll go in here and we'll start the car just so you can see. And you actually hear so much more going on now since we've fixed the grounds. There you go. She didn't do any of this before. We still got a check engine light, but that's probably because I've got the intake tube on, and the TPMS light is the tires are actually low on the passenger side. But that's it. I hope this video helps anybody out there who's having these issues. And hit like and subscribe. If anybody's got any questions, feel free to leave a comment. Slow down, move over for our first responders, tow trucks, and law enforcement. And once again, this is Luis from On-Site Auto and Truck Repair. Thank you for watching.